here, go get the money. So I go get it. Hate means I do something right. So I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. Yeah, I'ma let him. I hit the nail on the head. Yeah, I'ma let him. All I hear, go get the money.
What's up, Jets fans? This is Ramon, Jets Guru, aka @GuruJets on Twitter. Hey, you are now watching Jets Guru Live. Go Jets, 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 Jets.
All gas, no brakes. Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets.
You play to win the game.
They start to catch feelings. What is it you want from it? I gave you gave me. I played you played me.
Hello? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play it.
What's going on, Jets Nation? CJ the Painkiller D. Simone here, and you are watching Jets Guru.
Where my
Now,
dogs at?
give it up for your host, Mr. Daniel Smith!
Oh, you got to keep that music going, man, the whole time, man. You know what I'm saying? That thing was hitting heavy. What is up, everybody? And that is Mr. JR, man. That's his work. That's not my work. That's his work. We're happy to have him on the Jets Guru team, making us look professional, like real people out here trying to make their way. But hey, man, listen, we're still trying to add to the team. If you want to be part of the Jets Guru team, let me know. We got things that we need to get done still that we want to accomplish, and we can't do it all on ourselves. And so if you have interest in wanting to work with us, it may not right away be jumping on and talking with us every Thursday night, but there's a lot of other ways to get this show bumping, and people who show loyalty, they get fed, if you hang around me. And so over time, we can, carve out a role for someone that would be more to their liking. But we do have some things that we definitely want to get done. So if you want to help, message me, message JR, message any of us, even on Twitter @GuruJets, Ramon, and they'll let us know, and we'll start working on that. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. You guys are amazing people. About 30, 40 of you guys tuning in. We'll probably get some more over the next couple of minutes. I hope you guys are listening to the radio show. It seems like the numbers are going up. So, I mean, we're having a good time, me and Kevin out there. Last week, I was solo. I was talking about, obviously, Sam Darnold and the Zach Wilson kind of after Darnold got traded, because, I had to update the audio portion of it. And, it just got me thinking. And it got me thinking about just the whole trade in general and how everyone looks at the New York Jets. Because, we're obviously not looked at favorably. I can't tell you by the media when we've ever actually looked favorably in their eyes. And, most of the Jets seasons, even the ones with Rex Ryan, it was mostly them just talking crap until the Jets eventually shut them up, and then they had no choice but to jump on board. But listen, they were sitting there waiting and ready for any moment for the Jets to screw up, to jump on them again. And it's always going to be like that. They're always going to look at the Jets like that, unfortunately. And that somehow bled into our fan base somehow. And it's tough. You go 10 wins. 10 years, no playoff wins, no playoff appearances. It could eat at you as a fan, especially if you're a dedicated fan like the ones that you guys are. You come and listen to me. You listen to CJ DeSimone. You listen to Live Rounds. There's a bunch of different shows that you listen to throughout the course of the week, so you can keep up with the Jets stuff that's going on and have good conversation. And so you're sick of it like I am. I'm a passionate Jet fan, and so it really burns at me not to see, them get in the playoffs and stuff like that. And but at the same time, we also have to take those fan goggles off for a second and realize this is a new start, man. And with every new start, you have an opportunity to change. And I tell people that all the time. Every new start, you have when the deck is shuffled, reshuffled, and the slate is clear, you have a new shot at doing what you want to do, and that's just not in football, but that's in life. But since we're talking about football, I think looking at it, if you believe in who Saleh is and what everybody says about him, if you believe in the Shanahan offense and how it's been orchestrated within the National Football League, then you have to give these guys some time to implement it. You can't just come out and say, I could come out and say Darnold's going to suck year 4 with the Jets because I have 3 years of information telling me so. Now, you may say, oh, well, I have, this is the first thing you get from people. Oh, I've been a Jet fan since 1972, and you don't, how old are you? What are you, like 30 or something like that? I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm 35, yeah. Listen, I grew up in the 90s. I saw really bad Jets football, right around where you started to see good Jets football is when I started to see Jets football. Me growing up, the Jets were absolutely terrible. They were an awful organization. They were awful. They're just absolutely awful. And it wasn't until Bill Parcells came in where things started changing and this team started getting, a new name for itself. But what was so big time about that? What made the difference, right? You had coach after coach after coach come to the New York Jets, and it just didn't work, right? Because they needed that guy. They needed that hardcore guy that other people respected, not just in the media, but around the league. And he changed the culture of the football team and the expectations of what he wanted. And it was the same with Rex Ryan when he came in. When he came in, he was a different person. It was just like Mangini was talented as a coach, but I just think he lost a little bit of his sack not pulling Brett Favre. I think that really hurt him, because the Jets had a good team. But Rex Ryan he just was an animal with that defense when he came over, and he was like one of the best candidates at that time, and he emboldened those players. And I look at a guy like Saleh, right, and I feel like what he's bringing to the table fits within those molds as personalities. He's a guy that has a very big time personality that comes out there, puts it all out there, the all gas thing, all that kind of stuff. Players love that, especially defensive players. But what's different than Rex Ryan, what's different than some of the previous coaches that we had, is he actually brought a hot coaching offensive candidate with him. And he empowered that coach to do what he wants to do. And the GM got that coach in there. And the owner came out and said, you could go ahead and pick your coach. So this is not the same old Jets. Could we stop saying that until this regime, this face comes out and does something wrong? Because you look at the pieces that they have here. Bro, you could be the Lions right now. Did you see that press conference? Do you want to sign up for Adam Gase another time around again? I mean, listen, this is what I'm telling you right here. You could go around the league. Who was the other guy the Philadelphia Eagles hired? Oh my gosh, did you see that press conference? So what I'm saying is look at the hires, right? Look at what the players are saying about these guys, right? Look at their track records and then say, okay, let me give these guys a chance, right? Because this is what we wanted as fans, what we were crying about for years. Why are the Johnsons meddling in the coaching decisions? Why do we have to hire an outside organization? Who the hell is Bill Polian? He's not a New Yorker. He's not a Jet. What is this? All this different stuff that people come out and say, well, you got it. The owner said, you know what? I'm going to back off a little bit. I'm going to let the GM do his job. GM got his coach. Coach hired staff. Staff got other staff. You got players in here that fit the scheme. It's like the number one thing that like every free agent has talked about that's been signed by the Jets is how they talk to them as if they were integral pieces in what they are trying to do, because they believe that the guys that they signed fit the scheme that they're going to be putting out there. And I think it's very important to remember that I think that this team is not signing players because they have names. They're not overspending. They're bringing in guys that fit what they want to do, and then you evaluate from there. You don't buy a whole free agency class in one off season with your new coach. You get some players that you need, some players that you want. You hit the draft heavy with that. Now that you have 10, 11 picks, whatever the hell it is now that they're stacking, okay? And you start moving forward. And then after 1 year of this offense and defense being installed, then you go ahead and then you make the proper adjustments from there with over $50+ million in cap space projected for the Jets in 2022. And so the way I'm looking at this team, how could you knock what's going on? Because they're drafting Zach Wilson, because they're drafting the number 2 rated quarterback by in most people's eyes. If not, it's a close 2-3 with Justin Fields or so. Like, what are you so mad about? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, you people, okay, the ones who are like in love with Sam Darnold, he gave you nothing, my guys, please. Seriously, like Ryan Fitzpatrick gave us more than Sam Darnold. Like, he at least gave us a shot there, sort of, at the end, and he put up big numbers. So at times the Jets offense was fun to watch, so to me, looking at it, it's like, all right, we should be happy for this kid that he's going to Carolina and he's not going to the Lions. He's not going to a team like that. He's going to a team with a guy that we almost hired and the only reason why we didn't bring him in is because he wanted to bring in his own staff. Imagine that, a coach wanting to bring in his own staff. So we trade him to a guy who we were probably going to hire if he was a little bit more flexible with his staff. And you send him to a place where he has a receiver that he's played with before, and he also has other weapons, including a dynamic running back around him. He's 23 years old. Be happy for him, because in New York, that pressure, the fact that they are a 2-win team and they are rebuilding, it wouldn't have been a good look for him, and most likely he fails there. Now he's got a shot to actually survive. If this is the Jets from 2 years from now, maybe you hold on to Sam Darnold. It's a different story. But circumstances for both him and the team are completely different, and I think it just works out for the best. So let him go. Let him go and get on board, because the Jets are drafting Zach Wilson unless something comes out on Twitter and he said something racist or whatever, and then they have to go back and they might say, oh, I'm not sure now. And if you already had Justin close, maybe we just take Justin and avoid the whole headache of having to deal with this scenario. That's a possibility that can happen. Trevor Lawrence came out and said some weird, people thought it was kind of weird and awkward, how he basically said, like, football, like, winning kind of isn't like the all be all, say all, whatever. But like, people took that kind of like, I'm like, he's just speaking about life. Like, he sounded like a very mature man who's not coming out there like Johnny Manziel, like, oh yeah, we're gonna go out there and make the playoffs and drop bombs on them, and like, like he's just saying, like, and why shouldn't he be? He was a senior or whatever he is, junior, senior, who just went through COVID and being on campus. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he actually caught COVID, or some of his teammates had it. And so, like, things do mean a little bit different to a lot of people. I know they mean a little bit different to me and some other people in life. And so I think he was just talking, like, we can't be, you know what I'm saying? We got to chill out, like the media and the fans and everybody, and stop like hyper analyzing everything that these guys say. I know it's their job to do so, but you're you're shaming that dude. You're putting him down. Zach Wilson, right? There was a little bit of talk about he's not a leader and he wasn't even a captain on his own team and blah, 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 this, that, and the third. Like, so what? Like, so what? It doesn't make any sense. Who cares if he's not a captain on his football team as a sophomore going into maybe there's a guy on the team that's been there since day one who's the captain. Like, and here's the thing in college, not necessarily the best player is always the captain. You know how college is. It's a little bit different. And sometimes, seniority and different things come in the way. I think when you look at the Jets and you look at Zach Wilson and you look at the system that LaFleur is putting together, I think that you got to give them an absolute shot. You got to give him a shot. This kid has put up big numbers. You saw what he could do physically. I think if you trust the process, you trust this team and what they're able to do, at least on paper, because we don't know what they're going to be like until these coaches put everything together. But on paper, you got to like what the Jets are putting together, and you got to like their future. So Ramon, I'll ask you first. How do you think like the media is perceiving the Jets? And I mean, do you think that they're just kind of being a little too harsh on Zach Wilson and over talking Sam Darnold a little bit too much?
The media hates the New York Jets. Like, no, I'm not gonna say they hate us. I'm gonna say that we're the butt of the joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every single time, 10
Really.
times out of 10. So when they talk about Zach Wilson, if the 49ers had the second pick and they had Sam Darnold and they got rid of him, and they picked up and they were like, hey, we're gonna get Zach Wilson, there would be no issue. There would be no problem with them doing that. But since it's
Is Ramon out? I think he's having some technical difficulties.
Uh,
So Krista, we'll throw it over to you real quick. So how do you feel about how the Jets have been represented since they've made this trade with the Panthers?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the Jets haven't been good since 2009, and I think a lot of the media, if you're not winning, the media pretty much has this negative outlook on you, and sadly that's what's the case. When you go on Twitter, you have these bunch of guys that I never even heard of with the check mark all of a sudden say, "Well, the Jets organization, they suck, they hired gays. What are they thinking? Blah blah blah." And I think a lot of it has to do with the Jets' history of the Johnsons always butting in and not letting the coaches do their thing. We let Matt Rule go, and he was supposed to be the hot hire, and that didn't work out. We hired Gaze, and we saw that fiasco, and it's just all these failures, and the media likes to take notes of it, and sadly, it's the case. That's why I defend the Jets, but like you said, we have to take the fan goggles off and look at it. The Jets have been bad, and until we start winning, until we start proving ourselves, it's not going to change with the media. That once we start winning, that's when the media outlook will start to change. Sadly, that's what's the case. But if we keep losing and losing, and the New York media, it just gets hyped up, amplified times 10, and it's just like, dude, I already know the Jets organization has been bad. I already know this, or that. It's just as a fan, you get tired of hearing it. It's just like, dude, just like you want to tell them just to shut up. I'm trying to keep it PG-13 because the stuff like this, like we already know the obvious. Like you could ask any fan, you say about the Jets. We already know the organization has been bad. We already know the Woody Johnson fiasco has been bad. We already know that Adam Gazier has been bad. Why do any guys with unknown check marks telling us day in day out tell us how bad that we are? It's just it gets tiring. And as for the Zach Wilson, what I find really, really ironic is when the Jets were like 50-50, we didn't know who they were gonna pick. You hear Zach Wilson be connected to Aaron Rodgers, Baker Mayfield, all those guys. Now all of a sudden the Jets seem to be 100% picking them, or at least 90%. You never know. I never like to say 100% when they're the Jets because something could happen. I still think there might be a slight chance that Justin Fields could be the pick. I'm not saying he is, but now that I look on Twitter, all of a sudden I see all this with Zach Wilson being compared to Jay Cutler, Mark Sanchez, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I even tweeted about this. I'm like, all of a sudden, ever since then, since the Jets are picking, they want to get on Zach Wilson being this dude that's, oh, he's not going to be that good anyway because the Jets are picking, and you know how Jets were doing, blah, blah, blah. And now all of a sudden, you saw what the Jets were doing during the offseason. We got Corey Davis, we got all these weapons, but now all of a sudden people want to say, oh, what the Jets did to Sam Darnold, they're going to do to Zach Wilson. I'm like, dude, did you not see the offseason where we got Corey Davis, Ken Cole, we got him Tyler Croft. We have Mekhi Becton still, and we
He
still
said Tyler
round
Croft.
picks. I mean, I don't know. Like we want to throw Chris Herndon out the window.
Tyler Croft, welcome to the Jets, baby. Yeah, but I'm with you.
But it's just like ridiculous with that. And then you hear the Panthers, oh, go Panthers! You got Sam Darnold. The Jets didn't know what they were doing. Meanwhile, if you look at Pro Football Focus, guys, Sam Darnold only had 9 touchdowns. I mean, he's a nice kid. I don't want to bash him, but he only had 9 touchdowns. And I know half of it has to do with Adam Gase, and I'm not criticizing that part. We did absolutely nothing with Sam Darnold, offensive coordinator, did absolutely criminal that we gave him Jeremy Bates and then we gave this guy Dowell Logan. I don't know what his job was besides standing on the sideline and throw that flag, penalty flag, whatever he does. And Adam Gase, that is actually criminal to the young kid. And I really believe that part of his development was lost with the Jets coaching. But it's just like things like that. It's just the media likes to nitpick the Jets about that. It's like, do you see the roster now? Now compared to what Sam Darnold, and you want to compare Denzel Mims, you want to say Denzel Mims is a bum, you want to say Jamison Crowder is a bum, you want to say Corey Davis is a bum when he could have had 1,000 yards up with the Titans if they weren't run heavy first with Derrick Henry. It's just things like this boils my blood, and I get it. Until we start winning, the media's gonna say the same dumb things, but it's just like, come on, can you like do some thinking? I know we stink. You don't need to tell us fans that, but it's just I want them to give us credit for like what Joe Douglas has done to help Zach Wilson, but instead I am getting garbage that all of a sudden we once compared this kid Zach Wilson to Baker Mayfield to Aaron Rodgers, and now it's Jay Cutler because it's the New York Jets. It's things like that, but boils my blood. I can go on for an hour, but I am done. I said my piece. I'm just gonna thank you for letting that out because I feel so much better that I vented that out to Jet Nation.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, when you look at it, nearly every franchise that has a solid quarterback at some point in time was an absolute garbage team. And I mean, there have been a few franchises that over the years have been able to go back to back. You know, you see things like San Francisco, what they were able to do with Joe Montana and Steve Young. You know, Pittsburgh's had a good role of quarterbacks. But when you look at Pittsburgh, they also had some time there when they had some mix in and out guys who weren't that great, but they were still able to kind of play and compete at that level. And I think that's what Joe's trying to do here. He's trying to put a system, a way of life, and how they want to play. And it starts now, and it starts with this coach. And I think, you know, starting over and forcing the staff to hold on to certain guys, I think would be a mistake. And it just sends a message across the league that, hey, we really are starting over. I mean, hey, man, you know, you buy an old house, right? You buy a house, you know, and you knock some things down, you put money into it, you put new appliances, new paint, new wood, new things. And then all of a sudden, you know, people go out, turn around and sell it. Oh, look how beautiful this house is. Well, if I stripped it away, it wouldn't be anything. And so it's the stuff that I add in the house that makes it that home. And when you look at it, I think the Jets have done a good job. We talked about it from day one and how they had to come out and empower their staff. And I think they did that. And I think that when you look at everything from the owner down to the coaching staff, I think everybody wanted everyone who is in the building right now. I truly believe that. I don't think that there's people or a faction of the team or the organization that's like, we weren't really sure about this guy. I think everybody that's in there is kind of like on board. And I think that's only going to help the drafting process, which I think Douglas already did a good job last year. We'll see ultimately if it was a really good job as the years move on. But I think if you find like your starting left tackle, which you got, and you get a few other pieces from that draft, I think especially Denzel Mims, if he's a starting receiver, if you tell me you can get a starting receiver and your left tackle of the future in a draft, I'm good for that. If you're telling me I can get a quarterback in a center or a guard in next year's draft that pops, I'm going to be happy with that too. I just want to see productive play from the top picks. And listen, one of the things I think that's really important about this team, and we've spoken about this multiple times on Jets Guru, I do not like field goal kickers, like at all. Like I do not like them at all. They're just, to me, I think that after you score a touchdown, every team should have to go for two. And I think if you do that, they will make it to where the game will be like fine-tuned even within that play, and people will try to find different things to score within that format. But I think kicking is just, you play a game between two teams that's super exciting, and then it comes down to a guy that touches the field like 3 times a game. I just, you know, I don't know. It just doesn't flow for me. But the Jets have struggled, you know, as of late, the last few years as a field goal kicker. And to me, I think this is something that's super underrated, and it's not getting talked about around the boards. But you're going to have a young quarterback, and young quarterbacks usually make mistakes, and young quarterbacks are learning, and you could see some stalled drives and different things like that. And I think having a good field goal kicker on deck to kind of get you nickel and dime you some points here and there, I think could be very important for the New York Jets in this young offense, this new growing offense. So I'm going to ask you, Ramon, like, who are some guys in the draft or free agency that you might have your mind on? And what are your feelings on the Jets kicking scenario and what they have to do?
I'm the same way. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, cool. I just want to make sure. I'm the same way, man. I'm not a big fan of kickers. I didn't think Chandler Catanzaro. I didn't think he was horrible when we had him. I feel like we see Jets kickers a lot, in the past 2 years, past 3 years. I'm gonna say maybe even four. We've seen kickers a lot between the kickers and the punters. We've seen a lot of kicks because our offense is never very good. But I like the guy out of the guy Jose. I don't know how to say his name. Jose Boralgas, the senior, the dude out of Miami. It's a boring
Mhm.
topic to look at, but he's got the what's important to me is how far a kicker can kick a field goal, right? Because once you get to the end of those games, you're stretched out. You're in the point where you don't have a lot of time on the clock, and you need a guy that can kick a 55-yard field goal, um, which is not an easy task. And that's just kind of what it comes down to. You kind of need those guys that can do things like that, and he's a guy that could do it. You know what I mean? It's hard though. It's hard to really figure out who from college is going to come in and be a stud in the NFL. Like
Mhm.
we even seen like Young Hoku, right? He's a dude that
Yeah.
everybody loves his name. The Jets had him for a while, and he sucked I guess during his workout he was horrible, right? But then he goes
Mhm.
out to where did he go? Atlanta, and he was
Yeah.
one of the best kickers in the league. All of a sudden, he just turned it on, right? How does that happen? So I think it's for me, it's difficult to actually choose a guy and be like, oh, it's not as easy as you look at a quarterback. It's not as easy as you look at a wide receiver or a running back, and you're like, oh, this guy's good. He's gonna be good. You don't know with a kicker. It's just they're up and down all the time, and in one season he can be great, and the very next season they could be terrible unless you got Janikowski,
Mhm.
legend.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm with you on the Jose Borregales from Miami. I think out of the top 3 or 4 rated kickers that you have out there, he might have the most leg to give you there. And also, out of the 3 or top 4 kickers that you have, there's a guy from Memphis and another guy. I think, hold on, let me pull up his name. I have it here, and I can get it for you guys. You have Jose Borregales and from Miami. You have Evan McPherson from Florida. And
Mhm.
then another guy you have is Riley Patterson from Memphis, and then Quinn Nordin from Michigan. All these, I think the only one that really excelled in his senior year or took a step up in his senior year was Borregales from Miami. I think the rest of the guys had better junior years for themselves, and some even didn't have a good 2020. And so I'm not really sure where the Jets are. I mean, the Jets have some picks though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then how much of McPherson are you seeing because you had Kyle Trask there orchestrating that offense? You got to just see him kick a lot more. But I think Borregales, if he's there in the late rounds in the sixth round, remember Joe Douglas took man last year, and I think he's going to be a solid punter for this team, especially once we figure out the offense. He's not out there constantly. I think he punted. We talked about it, right? Braden Mann punted, I think, 20, 25 times more than any other punter in the league last year. So he was used a lot. So if you saw a couple bad kicks, you're talking about a rookie punter who's playing way more games, and just has way more mileage on his legs. These guys are still young too. You got to remember that, even though they're jacked up, a lot of these guys, and you're like, wow, look at that guy, he's 6'4", whatever. They're still only 21, 22 years old. They're still going to develop more. They're going to get bigger, stronger. They're going to get more confident, or it could go the other way too for a lot of those players like we've seen. But I think the Jets have to figure this out, because when you look at free agency and some of the free agent kickers that are left, I mean, there's really not too much left. I know you got Steven Gostkowski from, who's played for Tennessee. He's 37 years old. I'm not sure if that's really what you want to go. I mean, it would be nice to have a veteran presence, definitely. But he only was like 69% last year. And they were already talks. The reason why, New England got rid of him is because of his back problems and what have you. And so I don't know if you invite him maybe to camp, you say, this is a great kicker who maybe is just kind of working some things out with, how he's going to be. And, maybe he gets invited to camp and he just kicks well, he just feels a lot better. And so I don't know where the Jets are going to go with it as far as the kicking situation is concerned, but it's something they need to take care of. If not a rookie kicker late in the 6th or 7th round, or even in free agency, like if you have your
Yeah.
eyes on a kid who doesn't get drafted, then you just go ahead and pick them up. I think that could be really good for the Jets as well. But we can't have those games where you have a field goal kicker missing 2-3 kicks a game. It's just it's a killer. And it's going to be an absolute killer for a young kid who's, like, let's say he puts together a really strong drive. They really had to go out and grind to get it and set themselves up for at least some like points, morale points. And the guy comes out here and just pushes a kick to the right. You're just like, oh my gosh, just a gut
the
punch.
the kid from Marshall that we had at the beginning of not the past year, but the year before, just missing kicks left and right at the beginning of the season. Actually my buddy's friend. I felt bad that I was like trashing him on Twitter, but like, um, it was bad, and I think like that since that game, even though we went on a run, like I feel like that's kind of set the tone of the Adam. That's what set the tone of the Adam Gase era, and we've been struggling with kicks since, in my opinion. We've never been great. We've been okay at times. We've been good at times, but never been great.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at it again. You got Dan Bailey, Zane Gonzalez. You got Eddie Pinheiro, who played with the Bears last season. Looking up some of Pinheiro's stats, he was 82% last year, 23 out of 28. I don't know the breakdown of his missed kicks. I know it's tough to kick in Chicago sometimes with the wind and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know how that influenced it, but that might be a guy that you can. Well, listen, nobody is going to be ever as bad as Cody Parkey. I mean, Cody Parkey was absolutely awful, and I actually called that because I said, "Listen, I'm a Jets fan. I've had my feelings hurt by field goal kickers." And I remember it was like the second or third game of the season, and Cody Parkey missed because my friend Dan, he's a really big Bears fan, and so I watch a lot of Bears stuff with him. And he missed the field goal, and there was just something about the way he kicked it. I was like, dude, I don't like this guy. I'm like, you're going to have an issue with him all season. And sure enough, they had enough issue with him all season. And then in the biggest moment, and that's the thing, right? To put a team together that you're like, this is a possible Super Bowl winning team. And listen, they were good that year. Okay, they were good. And even Trubisky, everything was just rolling for them very well. And I almost guarantee if they won that game, they would have pushed a little bit further. They just had everything working for them. Everybody was healthy. Everybody was juiced up, and the book wasn't out on everything on Trubisky and stuff yet. And here comes the field goal kicker, comes out and ruins your chances. And who knows? Some of these players may never get back there again. And that's why I think that if you're in this scenario, don't let the guy who matters least mean the most to your team. And it doesn't seem like a big deal, but having a solid punter, having a solid kicker, and combining that with a special teams coach, which we know who could coach, and you put that all together, and it could really change the dynamic of your team. When you have a guy that you could trust that can come out there and hit 50-yard field goals, you don't feel the pressure that you need to constantly squeeze and push, as opposed to a guy that misses often. You feel like, man, we got to get down to the damn 25-yard line, 20-yard line to get this guy a generous kick, at the 35 or something like that to keep it, that's college stuff, man. You get to the pros, you need guys that can come out here and hit 45-yarders like no problem, 50-yarders like no problem. Or what the hell do we have you here for? And so I think with the young quarterback, I think that's something they really need to take a really big look at, is to come out and say, listen, do we need to get ourselves a legit kicker? If you, let's say you get everything that you need and all the other picks, you get your guard center, you get your quarterback, you get your a cornerback, you get everything that you need. And then you're sitting there in the 6th or 7th round, whatever it is. And you say, man, we're going to go out here and just maybe try my luck here with the kicker. Or like I said, go out there and invite a veteran who had a bad season, but he has a good track record, and say, hey, let's give him a camp invite combined with a young guy and let them kind of duel it out at camp. And no harm, no foul. If none of them work out, Gostkowski or someone like that would be a small time deal. And then you would have a rookie kicker in the later rounds, and that could could be gotten rid of, no problem. And so looking at it, I think it's a super, super big area that the Jets need to look at, if not this year, next year. But I would hate on, Zach Wilson's rookie year to have them do what they've been doing, which is cycling through kickers 3-4 a year, have a guy come in on the weekend, try out for your team. I mean, you got to do better than that. I think you've seen how bad it hurts your football team. I think Joe Douglas saw this firsthand. But again, I mean, you could say that to Joe Douglas at any point in time. And you could say, Well, hey, cornerbacks hurt us too, and quarterback hurt us, and lack of receivers, and no running back, no offensive line, no pass rushers. The inside linebackers are all hurt. So, I mean, you can literally pick any position group and say, we've been hurt, and I'm trying to improve it. So, again, 2-win team, trying to rebuild, have a little bit more patience, realize you can't fix everything in one day, and that's including the offensive line. Try some things. They don't work. Try a new method. So we'll see what happens with the New York Jets and what they're able to piece together. But the one thing I need you guys to do right now is please share the show. Help us out. Please go also onto YouTube and like and subscribe to our page so we can keep growing. And also go on our Twitter page at Guru Jet so you can talk to Ramon on a daily basis. And listen, we're going to have a draft special next Thursday. Okay, but we're going to be on at 7 o'clock because we know you guys aren't going to listen to us once the draft gets started too much. I know the diehards will. So we want to do it a little bit earlier so we can get some information. So me, Krista, Ramon, and JR are going to give you our full draft boards the next Thursday and let you know, hey, this is who we think. Last year, I did absolutely terrible. The only pick that I got right was Braden Mann. I picked that he was going to get picked in the 6th round, and I actually got that right. But other than that, I failed completely in all of my picks as far as where they're supposed to be. So get your draft boards together. Right. We'll put a post up, the draft special. Okay. And you put your draft boards up. Okay. And once I post that, and whoever gets the closest to what the Jets actually pick, we'll send a prize out to you. And so, yeah, get your boards ready. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some picks, see where the Jets go. And we'll stay with you all the way through until Zach Wilson gets picked. And once Zach Wilson gets picked, which I believe will be the number 2 pick, we'll talk about a little bit and just kind of spitfire what we think and what our excitement level is and, his interview and all that kind of stuff before we let you go. So it'll be a fun day. You'll get some Jets Guru, then you'll watch the rest of the draft. It'll be a whole thing for you guys to get excited about. But JR, he's got some place to be, so we're going to let him go a little bit earlier so he can get ready and get out of here and not rush. And so, listen, we appreciate you guys so much. You guys are amazing fans. You guys do some great things also in the Jet world. A lot of you guys run your own pages. You still watch me. Appreciate all the support. I appreciate all the hard work Ramon's doing on Twitter. I appreciate all the hard work that Krista is doing out there, posting and dropping tracks for us there. So, hey, man, we're out here. We're trying to do our thing. We're trying to keep this train moving. And Lorenzo says you guys should have Friday. Well, that's The thing about it is this. We have something in plans, something called Jets World that we want to do where we're going to combine a bunch of different Jet pages together into one place. And so you can get just a constant stream of Jet news from some of your favorite faces on Facebook and the internet. And I think it's going to be a great thing. And we're going to get started pretty soon. I'm getting ready to move and stuff like that. So I got to take care of the home life before I start a new venture, but that's something that we're going to be doing. And so, you're going to be getting that Jets content fairly often and pretty regularly from a bunch of different people, including our individual things that we do each week. And so I appreciate you guys. You guys are amazing. And Lino, we'll see. Your first pick for the Jets will be Fields, then Horn or Newsome. Hey, if it's Field and Newsome or Horn, I'm not going to complain, but I think it's going to be Zach Wilson, and it's going to be a center most likely. So, but we'll know. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. So we'll see you next Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the Jets Guru draft special. Get those boards going so we can get those prizes out there. Appreciate you guys so much. You guys are amazing fans. Have a great night. Peace.
All gas, no brakes. Let's make sure we play like the New York Jets.
Cocoa Puff sweet bitches make you wanna eat bitches, but not me.
You play to win the game.
Instant, they start to catch feelings. I start. What is it you want from it? I gave you, you gave me. I played you, you played me.
Hello? You play to win